Romans 10 through 12. For there is no difference between the Jew and the Greek, for the same Lord all men call it upon him. Roughly paraphrasing. Alright. This sit down is going to go into Romans chapter 10 verse 12. And first and foremost, I'm going to say all praises to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, double honors to the apostles and elders of great millstone, and peace and blessings to the hopeful elect of the nation of Israel. So, Romans chapter 10 verse 12, for there is no difference between the Jew and Greek. Alright. We're going to start, well, I'm going to start to say that, you know, if they have the true understanding of the Lord, alright, they had a true understanding of the Most High is for you to understand what the scriptures were about, alright. It's for you to understand what the scriptures were about. When the Lord was on the scene, when his disciples were on the scene, they went to other regions in the world, you know, up here, up in Asia Minor and in Rome and so forth. The reason why they were going there, so they can preach this gospel. And the brothers that were into thinking that they were Greeks, but their bloodline, their father's family line goes back to the Jews, you know, that will bring them back into the fold. So though those brothers and sisters lived in other parts of Asia Minor, like Greece and so forth, so like, you know, once they hear this word, they will understand and come back to knowing that, yeah, you know, we live in another region. You know, we live in Rome or so forth, but we're not Roman. We're Jews, you know. So that's the real understanding for there is no difference between Jew and Greek. All right. The Lord and the apostles or his disciples were not teaching the heathens. They were teaching this word, and the Lord were sending the elect, basically, of those people, of the so-called Romans that were really Hebrew Israelites. They were sending. The Lord had their spirit listen to the disciples and the apostles of the Lord, so they can understand, you know, and they would know that, you know, well, damn, I'm not Greek. I'm actually from one of the tribes of Israel. All right, so that's what that was about. And you have something called the Hellenism or Hellenistic period, dealing with Alexander the Great, and this would also help our people become Greeks, or they would fall off from being a Hebrew Israelite, and they would follow Greek customs, the Greek language, Greek gods, and also in Persia too. Because when our people were led into captivity into Babylon, a handful of our people chose to stay in Babylon. And also today, with America being Great Babylon, a large amount of our people want to stay in America. They want to stay in the ways of America, but this country is going to be destroyed. All right, so I'm going to start reading this book, and this is a book I did other sit downs about this book, about this fake image. All right, and so on and so forth. So, Hellenism, the next major upheaval in the fortunes of the Israelites occurred when Alexander the Great defeated the Persians in 33 BCE, then conquered Judah the following year. Alexander was from Macedonia in northern Greece, and he and his successors promoted Greek culture. See? Alright? and he and his successors. And Alexander was a so-called white man. He was an Edomite. So they would press the ways of Greece upon Judah, upon Israel, all right, which is Judah, you so-called Negroes, or the Southern Kingdom, you know, which is the tribe of Benjamins, Jamaicans, and the Haitians are the Levites, all right. Then conquered Judah. The following year, Alexander was from Macedonia in northern Greece, and he and his successors promoted Greek culture within their empire. So here you go. Many Jews became attracted to Hellenic ways. They started to speak Greek and abandon their traditions. So a lot of the Hebrew Israelites abandoned being a Hebrew Israelite, and they conformed to Greek culture and Greek language. All right, that's being a Gentile. That's a Gentile mind state. All right. Hostility developed between Hellenists and traditional Jews. All right, because the Hellenists were Jews falling off from their customs and following the ways of other nations, all right, of the heathens, all right. So that's why traditional Jews, their brethren, and the Hellenists will fight, or they will get into it, all right. So that's it, all right. Let's see. And then also it speaks about the Apocrypha or the Maccabees, all right. And the Maccabees were Israelites, but they were fighting the Romans. You know, they rebelled. It says, the Maccabees, the tensions between Greek and Jewish traditions led to a revolt in the 2nd century BCE. At this time, the Seleucid kings descended from Alexander. The great general Seleucus dominated Judah and tried to Hellenize Jerusalem. All right. They were trying to make them go off on a Sabbath day, forced them to eat pork, and so on and so forth. Between 175 and 163 BCE, Seleucid king Antiochus, I believe the 6th, robbed the temple, or the 5th, robbed the temple, banned the Jewish practices of circumcision, and forbade Jews from observing the Sabbath. And that's what happened. And reading the Torah, following the laws. And Antiochus announced that the temple would be rededicated to the Greek god Zeus, and that animals, including pigs, were considered unclean by Jews, would be sacrificed there. So there was also sacrificing pigs on the altar, all right, on the holy place. Led by Judah, the Maccabee, the Jews rebelled. In 164 BC, they recaptured Jerusalem and restored the temple, an event celebrated at the festival of Hanukkah, which is really another name. Judah's family, the Hasmoneans, founded a dynasty that ruled for the following 100 years. All right. It talks about them Herod and so on and so forth, talking about the Jewish revolts. But hold on a second. I just want to stay with, our people following the ways of the heathens. That's all I want to stay in. Where is it at? I just had it on. Oh, okay. Now it says the Jews in Persia. Although the Jews were permitted to return to Israel when Persia conquered Babylon in 538 BCE, many remained in Babylon, all right, and spread out around the towns of Babylon and Persia, all right. In the mid-7th century, the Arab Muslims conquered Persia but permitted the Jews to continue practicing their religion, all right. But it goes in to talk about how the Islam started taking down the Jews and so forth. But basically, that's it. All right. No difference between Jew nor Greek. Is all about the Hebrew Israelites. You know, yeah, you might think that you're Greek or you're American in today's terms, but your family line goes back to one of the tribes of Israel. All right, if you believe in His word, because you know you're gonna have people that hear this, you know, and they're gonna be, you know, they're gonna be Americanized Hebrew Israelites, but they're not gonna want to understand or they don't care. So I'm gonna close that out and say, Kal Halal, all praises to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, double honors to the Apostle and Elders of Great Millstone, and peace and blessings to the hopeful elect, the nation of Israel. Shalom.